includes, we spent, what we paid out for night out. We're due from the city $254.63, which would make our balance $3,737.19. So we got a little leeway in our budget now.
Yeah. We have $3,300 in our.
$34.82.
Okay, $3,500 in our account that we work off of, and that is substantially more than what we had 8 years ago when we had $200 in it, and we were hustling the city to pay our bills, so we didn't have to pull out of our own pocket. Most of that is thanks to this young lady next door putting together this advertisement program that has brought in good money for us. But is there a point where we have too much money? Do we need to have more money than $3,500 for us to work on a year for the project we do? Anything over a couple of grand, the city has been more than happy to work with us if they're a vendor to pay for it or to get the estimate or the bill of what it would cost, and they would pay for it directly for us. So we still have that option with them. Nicole and I were talking about it. It's a lot of work for her to do, to put all this stuff out. And with all the programs that she's in, it stretches the string a little tight for her. And I'm just wondering if you guys think we are solvent to the point now that we do not have to do that for a while.
Or Nicole, do you want to just go after those of us that have been advertising and not chase new ever?
I mean, yeah, I would love to continue on with the sponsors we already have. We have you, the Freedom Foundation, Hy-Vee, and then Denise had commented that she wanted to incorporate a couple people she knew.
Sure.
I'm fine with that. I just don't want to waste dollars on spending more money on mailing out the letter that doesn't get a ton of response. But I also would like to obviously continue to support those that have been interested in receiving the benefits
Right,
from
and
it.
then if other groups, as they get to know us, want to advertise, they see us, then they can.
Yeah,
So keep it simple, but don't stop the spigot.
yeah, I'm fine with that.
That's my suggestion.
I'm very open to that, yeah. As long as we can avoid all the other outreach.
No, that's, yeah, because like you say, just getting our repeat customers isn't too tough.
Would you like to make your commitment now?
Sure.
Okay. Ken, do you want to update your advertisement or do you want to keep it the same? You haven't changed it. So.
I'll have to check, see if I have to update it or not.
Okay.
That's up to the home
Just need to
office.
lighten up his hair a little bit in the picture because it's getting lighter.
I've heard that. I don't know why.
That's perfect, yeah.
The summertime goes blonde.
That ain't blonde. Anyhow, okay, so we'll go on with what we do have, but we'll not put the burden of trying to get new on us. So, alrighty, that answer our questions on
Works
that.
for me.
Okay, that works for me.
Thanks, everybody.
All in favor, aye?
Bye.
Opposed?
This isn't even a formal
Sure.
vote. So lame.
Motion second, Karen.
That was so fast.
It was seconded by Rose.
Yes.
Didn't you hear her?
There we
Didn't you hear Rose second it?
Yeah.
Well, Lieutenant Welsh is on vacation someplace, so he won't be here tonight, but we've had some really haven't had a whole lot in the neighborhood of damage or problems with burglary or theft or anything. I talk around people all around within their groups, and they've not heard of anybody even as much as porch violence. So we'll always have the call to duty that ends up in our neighborhood, but not necessarily was because it was in our neighborhood. And we really had a pretty quiet summer the last month or so. We've had a lot of stuff going on, but not a lot of crime and stuff to Have you heard anything about the body out?
No, I have not heard any
Any
updates on that at all yet, so,
Were you out at the crash on Glass Road?
no. That was that on Saturday,
Sunday.
Sunday?
I came back from Minneapolis and they're going.
That's the U-Haul?
No, that was out on Pittswood Road and, Glass Road. Between Glass Road and 42nd Street, out in the wooded area,
Okay.
or one lane on the side.
Nope, I wasn't up
Okay.
on that one. I was, Saturday I was attending our volleyball fundraiser and participating, and Sunday I was recovering from our volleyball fundraiser.
I heard you guys had pretty good attendance though.
It was,
Even
yeah.
though it was toasty.
It was actually, the first couple rounds were actually, it was beautiful. It was still beautiful out, and then it got hot.
Yeah.
So, and
I
yeah,
did the game.
yeah, I'm glad we lost when we did.
Great. Well, with that, Chief Smith, would you like to speak forward with your words
Yeah.
of wisdom?
So one thing on here is a past event, obviously the Shooby-Doo thing, but a couple things just to point out is the Yardie, the compost reminders. So just make sure that the Yardie cart is not too heavy, as well as apparently there's been some problems putting large branches or logs in there, which is troublesome for the composting. And the other big thing is recreational fires and grilling safety. Obviously, we allow rec fires within the city limits. Just make sure that you have a way to extinguish it immediately available, a garden hose nearby or something to that effect. If you're not going to be near it, put it out with garden hose so that it doesn't continue to burn. Make sure you're 25 feet from homes or other structures, and then just the typical safety with kids and that type of stuff.
2 blocks north, you had you already set a house on fire.
Yeah. Yep, we've had a handful recently. We had one over on the southwest side near our neighborhood here. Well, I guess that was early this summer. That was Memorial Day weekend, I think it was. So that's the big thing is if you have a fire pit or something, even if it feels cold and it feels cold on the outside, those embers will stay hot for a few days. So either let it sit for, fill it. I typically fill mine full of water when I'm done with it,
Boy
but
Scouts, stir it.
yeah, and or if it's the middle of your yard or something, just let it sit for days on end, but don't put it in the yardies. If you do want to get rid of your coals or something like that, get a metal container with a self-closing lid and make sure you put them in there so no air can get to them or anything like that. So we'll have 2 or 3 a year where it's a yardie up next to a house where somebody put coals in there. So I think we're going to try to put out some. I know that our PIO has put some public service announcements over Facebook and kind of social media and that type of stuff. We're going to probably try to put some of the water bills here this fall yet, just as a friendly reminder. So
Last winter, there was a couple of cases I saw on TV. I don't know if it was around here or not, but people's houses were cold. They couldn't get them warm, so they brought their gas grills in.
I don't think we had any of that here, but that's not a good idea.
It happened 2 or 3 times. It was on the internet or something.
Yeah.
Because they put them there with their grills going, trying to keep warm in the wintertime going. That ain't good.
No, other than that, just obviously the wonderful heat we're going to have here this week. So just stay cool. Lynn County EMA does list on their website a list of I call them cooling centers, but places you can go, like Lindell Mall, Public Library. There's a few places around the city that you can go to cool off if you don't have air conditioning in your home, or you're out and about and need to get away from the heat. We go sit in front of the Center for Public Safety Excellence Commission next week for our hopefully our finalized accreditation for the next 5 years. So
Question. When you put those locations for air-conditioned places on the internet, how do the homeless find out about it? Because I'm sure not too many have computers in their tent.
That is very true. I'm not sure how EMA is in charge of those, and I'm not sure what kind of reach out they do with that. Obviously, we do know that we have at least a portion of the homeless population that does utilize the library quite a bit. Some of the other stuff, I'm not sure what kind of outreach services for.
I think Willis Stady usually has signage on
That's a good point, yeah.
their 2 offices, but I don't know if they have it anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
My wife asked a question yesterday, we were in Minneapolis, pretty hot up there this afternoon, so she said, they say that they're open during their business hours. It's still 94 degrees, 95 degrees at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. What are the options? Because I had no answer for her when she said, what are the options?
That would be the homeless shelters themselves. Yeah, I mean, that would be my best guess if it's the hours of the cooling areas, public cooling areas aren't open, it'd be the option of going to the homeless shelters.
So I had reason to be at the hospital a couple of days, a week or so ago when it was really hot out there, and I saw a lot of people in the emergency room sitting area, just sitting there, and they didn't have tags like they were going in. Do they still use those areas?
I have no idea. I don't know if hospitals do or not.
I thought it was a fair question, is after everything shuts off, where do these people go to be protected? And I didn't have an answer, so the home with the shelters, last winter over off of 6th Street, they had that place for people to get out of the cold at the city.
The overflow shelter, or are you talking?
The overflow shelter?
Yeah,
It was down
yeah, that
by
opened.
Cargill.
Yeah, that opened, I believe that opens usually opens November 1st.
Okay, so they don't use it in the summertime for this stuff like that. Good to know. Some of these people have find darndest places to park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Last night we were on First Avenue, went out to Irish Democrat for supper. We were coming down and right on the other side of the Irish Democrat, going 32nd Street, there's the Flower-Rama, and then there's a brick building next to that. And there was a guy laying in the parking lot, sleeping. This is like 8 o'clock at night. Had a metal cart sitting by the door, but he was just laying on the ground, sleeping. And I thought, oh my gosh, do you stop to see if they're alive, or do you just assume that they're, this is where he's sleeping?
There was a guy at Cleveland a few years ago, just lying on the grass and not moving, so I went over. Said, "Are you okay?" He goes, "What the hell, I'm from California. This is what we do." So, yeah, you never know.
I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah. Are you okay?
If you didn't say anything, that's when you get worried.
Yeah.
Well, we have Joe that lives out here in the summertime now. The bearded guy that
Yes,
wanders
I've seen
around back
him.
and forth, and he's there. He used to have a job, now he doesn't work, and he'd come back here. Nice guy, nice as can be, but he just wanders around. He leaves and then he comes back, but he sleeps over there at night underneath the overhang, so.
You wear a jacket? Oh, yeah, I was walking one morning and the sun was coming. I didn't see him. All of a sudden, he's like, "Good morning." Like, oh my, yeah.
I think he was at church Sunday.
Yeah,
Oh my
he
God.
came to National Night Out, and
Oh,
Jessica English from Hillside had a chance to talk with him a little bit, and then I think you invited him here to go to church.
He asked if Darren was still, I said, yeah, so.
Yeah, and
He knows the pastor.
Yeah, he's been-
around here, so.
Yeah.
He's not like, he's not a man that I would be afraid to be around with, that it just, these are questions that people ask is how do they deal with it? And I said, they've been doing it for 100 years. So it's not like this is something new to them.
No, but some of the people have been using the splash pads as well.
Yep.
There's been some calls where homeless were cooling off in the splash pads, which.
Well, being we don't have a city update, let's substitute that with a little words of
Safe
wisdom
CR.
from Safe CR and Matt.
All right, well, we've had 850 founded calls for service this year. We've got 516 active nuisance properties, 354 of those are owner occupied. 162 are rental properties. Just seeing a lot of properties become nuisance properties as of recently because of not mowing and that kind of thing. So I'd say if you're concerned about the upkeep of a neighbor's house or someone down the street, to put a complaint in through MyCR so we can hope to get that addressed before it starts getting cold. Many of the concerns neighbors have take time to resolve, so the city tries to give people time to bring those properties into compliance, so.
And I'm sorry, I was typing, but I didn't catch the numbers. How many are current active properties in Cedar Rapids?
Nuisance properties, 516.
If you halfway know your neighbor and they're not mowing, you might want to check on them to see if there's a reason that, I mean, a friendly neighbor, I mean, yeah, so.
Most of the stuff that, I see just driving around town is it's not necessarily the whole yard needs to be mowed. It's just the weeds that are the thing that have been growing this summer with the limited rain. So it's the weed trees and some of the other tall weeds that essentially could probably just take a snipping with a snipper and.
We have a yard of weeds.
Yep.
Yeah.
I personally experienced with some people over on 17th Street when we discussed with them, and they were very vocal about keeping our nose where they belong and out of their business. And so when it got to the point that we had to talk, and someone came to them, and then they come down and were mad because we didn't come and talk to them. And I said, we tried. She said, well, you don't know what's going on in my house, and I got 2 kids, and I'm single, and I'm trying to make a living, I'm making 2 jobs, and da-da-da. And I says, if your attitude was better, I says, you might get help. But I says, as long as you do what you do, I says, I can't see a real good future for you. And I says, aren't you not embarrassed that you're yelling, screaming at me in front of your kids? What did that tell them about you? And she turned around, walked in her house, but I take so much, but it was one of those nights when I just really didn't want to talk to her, and she come over with all this, and so I kind of met her head on. Wasn't vulgar, I didn't use words that she used, but I let her know that we are aware of her and what she does and doesn't do, and she needs to understand home ownership and the importance of maintaining it, because our neighborhood is not a junkyard.
So, but I'm curious, this has always bothered me.
Yes.
Is it because it bothers us that it's messy? And that's not what we like? Or is it, I'm not sure how to say it. Like, is it because we don't like it? Or like we have a house, that house on 15th and 8th.
Right.
And then the house on 8th and Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because we don't like to see it? Or is it something they're doing? Like,
It's,
Well,
I
some
guess
of
it's
it-
within a code of what the city
Yeah.
would
Right.
like
It's
you to
allowed.
do.
Yeah.
This lady had a car parked out in the parking for 2.5 months.
yeah,
His tires were half flat,
yeah.
didn't run. But when we moved, they've been marked and ticketed 2 or 3 times. And then I came out to write the number down because, again, I was told that we need to do something. And she came out and reamed me a new one. And she said, they told me all I have to do is move it 1 inch. And I said, can you move it 1 inch?
Right, yeah.
Well, that's not your problem. And I said, well, the next day was gone. And when I talked to him, his question to me is, do you want it towed? And I said, no, I don't want it towed, but I want her to understand her responsibility
Yes.
within the system
Right.
of what the rules are and that she needs to play by.
And to that question, honestly, I get approached by a lot of the elderly neighbors that don't have smartphones or don't have internet to support this, to report this stuff to Safe CR. So my husband it makes him nervous because I just approach people's homes because I was raised where like, if someone asks for help, you help, but if they're not willing to ask for help, you offer. And so we have a couple neighbors that are elderly, and if their yards aren't kept or there is something that's questionable, we check on them. Like that's just by default what we do. And there have been instances where either they're sick or their lawnmower's broken or whatever, and if they don't ask for help, you offer. And we luckily have a lot of neighbors that already check on each other, but there are some elderly neighbors that don't. They're shut-ins, they don't communicate. But sometimes you just report it to the city and then they are more shut in. You don't really want to do that. So if you've asked, that's one thing. But personally, I don't care if you have weeds in your yard. Everybody's got weeds. I don't worry about it too much myself. But if there's a neighbor that maybe you can tell hasn't been healthy, or
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
might be a
that's what-
reason.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, when someone asks for help, you help, and
Yeah.
if they don't ask, you offer. That's just how that's how it is.
And you gotta look at that too, this particular neighbor's probably in her late 20s, early 30s, there's a lawnmower sitting in the backyard, and yet, once a month or so, this guy that shows up every now and then mows, and then, in the meantime, there's trees growing from the trees around it. But we don't go every day and say, hey, your lawn's a mess, your lawn's a mess. We understand the cycle, and we live with that. But when it gets to a point where it goes beyond that, then when
it's
I
affecting
get
others
talked to
negatively.
about it, then I have to talk about it. I don't care what happens to her as long as she doesn't shoot me and takes care of the house overall. But if they just let it go and let it go, then there's to a point where
I find it interesting, your stats, about twice as many on your list are owner occupied, not
I
rentals.
can expand on that too, if you'd like to.
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the program was started, you know, a lot of people, I think, thought that it was gonna be rental property owners,
Yeah,
you know, the
right.
quote unquote slumlords are not gonna do anything. Well, what has happened is those rental property owners, since it stays with that property, they could get a new tenant or evict or anything could happen, but that nuisance property designation stays with that property.
Mhm.
So the next person comes in and it could result in a bill.
Mhm.
So you don't receive a bill from just getting, you know, a singular notice if it's a lower tier, like say disturbing the peace or a barking dog. But once it's deemed a nuisance property, anytime the police are out for nuisance activity,
Mhm.
you're being charged.
Ah,
And those landlords don't want to pay
right.
that bill. So they do a very proactive job of following the police department's website, because we have all the calls for service listed, and there's landlords that will call in monthly and say, here's these 3 calls at my property, what happened? And we'd say, oh, your tenant called because they were in domestic, that doesn't count.
Okay,
So if.
just making sure that,
Yep,
Everything's
wanting to know what's going on with their property without even driving by.
yeah, because like the 8th and 15th here, where part of the problem is there's no parking up to the corner except for the one on 15th, there's not, so they park all the way to the edge where nobody can see, because that's the one, when the city redid all the corners, they put no parking a little ways away from the corner except for right there.
Yeah.
So the only time we were really able to call is one time when they had the camper and were parking in. And where you really couldn't see anything. So
Or
we
did it
did
make
call
it
that.
dangerous? Did it like make it dangerous trying to come around? the
Yeah,
corner?
you could, yeah, because they even had a camper on their yard on the corner, plus on both sides.
And I think that's the biggest thing with Safe CR is just being proactive with neighbors and knowing what's going on and what's concerning them. Because our goal is not to make properties nuisance properties, because that doesn't really solve anything.
No, and I understand, you know, like for them, they have no street parking if we take away the one on 15th too, but then again, they have like 8 vehicles for that one house.
I do have a question. So this isn't really a question, and it's very rare we get comments during our meetings. This kind of makes me happy right now. But one of our neighbors said, you know, to the comment, if it makes your property values go down, especially if you're trying to sell it, it can make a huge difference. Does I don't feel like whenever I've got my home appraised that other people's messy yards affected my appraisal. I don't know if you can comment on that. I don't think that's how the appraisal process would work.
Well, I'm not a realtor or real
Yeah.
estate, but I know that if a house near you sells for much higher than yours,
Yeah,
then that could affect it.
yeah,
Or much
Or much
less.
Yeah.
lower.
yeah.
So I think it's probably hand in hand if you've got a place that is dilapidated and placarded by
Yeah.
the city that
Yes,
says no permission to enter,
Makes a difference,
or
yeah.
it burned up in a fire and there's no ownership to it, then it could very easily.
Yeah, probably if you weed, probably not gonna do it. but
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
Didn't that happen in Cedar Rapids? What? have property that nobody knows who owns it?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
How do you deal with that?
Through a slow.
Very
process.
slow process.
Jeff would be a better,
Can you just take it over because there's no ownership?
If you pay the back taxes.
you pay some of the back taxes, which I'm not an expert on, but sometimes it's very, very, more expensive
Yeah.
than the parcel and the dwelling
Yeah.
together.
It's crazy. We helped Steve Nyland that runs the Taylor area neighborhood.
Right.
He was running into that issue with a house, I can't remember what street it was on. And I said, he had asked me if we'd ever dealt with that. I said, no, but I think you just have to pay the back taxes. So he actually had the neighbor that was inquiring called City, I believe. And I don't remember if my mom talked to him or something. And basically, like, the property itself was valued at like 60,000. Like, it was a very low value for the property because it was very run down. It was barely standing. And the back taxes were like $40,000 because the people had moved away and then like died, and some guy bought it and it just sat there, and it was this whole story. And I just had no idea that was a thing in town until it was a thing.
Yeah, it's a long legal process, and you've got county, you got property taxes, you've got liens, you've got all that type of stuff. And I know that there's a program with the city that's starting. I don't know the details of it, but if somebody, basically, the city will sometimes identify the property on a tax sale and give incentives, like they will forgive the back taxes in order for like somebody to come in, buy the property to fix it up and that type of stuff. And it was a long time where the city and I believe the county wouldn't waive the taxes, the back taxes on it, because theory was loss of revenue, but it sits there for so long that now, in order to get them developed, but it's still a long painstaking process. I mean, it's still probably 2-3 years before that happens.
Landlords have to go to some class or something.
There's a landlord training that's online that people can attend.
There's a 4-hour class that I went to, yeah.
Speaking of that, the Chandler Candy Stores for sale.
Yeah.
Is there a sign up?
Do you want me to formally put that in the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my
I'll put
mom,
it under
Piece of
other
history in the
business.
Cleveland
Very
neighborhood.
other business, remind me.
Part of history happened.
and my
Yeah, that's
mom's
right.
house is going up for sale soon too.
Yeah.
The what?
Next door to us,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay, well, that's
The
not.
brick house or
Oh,
Next
the white
door,
one.
the white
next to
one.
us.
the white one?
To the west, yep.
Oh, okay.
He's moved out, so.
Does your mother live there?
Yeah.
Where'd she go?
58 years.
Where'd she go?
Prairie Hills on F Avenue,
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
and she likes it. She has a patio.
Yep.
Yes, it was a good
She
thing.
finally got her away from the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You have friends you can talk to and play cards.
yep,
Oh, yeah.
Just-
That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
happy for her.
yeah, thank you.
This is assisted living, she doesn't drive anywhere, does she? Does she?
No.
No, she- So she can't just come and go when she pleases?
It's sad though, we lost a longtime neighbor. She lived there for so many
It
years.
is sad, and then Gladys is gone as well,
Yeah.
you know, so, well, yeah,
She just turned 100.
yeah,
So
it's just life.
I
But
just
anyway.
got the garage
Oh,
pretty much
like
empty
that.
after the
Yeah.
fire.
Sometimes people just fight it.
It helps.
Okay, does anybody have anything more from Matt?
Sorry, that was like a tangent, Matt. You're welcome. Normally you get through your stuff pretty fast. Today it was the topic.
Always fun to talk.
Well, it's interesting what you have to share with us, and we do appreciate your coming and conversing with us. It's very important to us to know what's going on.
Let us put you
So
in
we
the
can
hot
put
seat.
it out.
Yeah, I like it.
If that's a hot seat, you got it made. So, okay, obviously our city councilman hasn't showed up.
I will move that to the September. I bet you I had the date wrong. I will make note for September. But if you have questions for him, yes. Do you want them in the minutes or do you want me to
Sure,
email
let's do it in
him?
the minutes.
Okay, go.
Okay, curious what the city's policy on sidewalks are. They just redid 18th Street, took it down, put new curbs, everything. No sidewalk.
Complete street didn't work there, did it?
Complete street, and one of the most needed streets in our neighborhood that goes right up to Jefferson.
For all those kids that walk
And
there.
one of the busiest streets in our neighborhood. So we go from trying to force it down the poor Chandler people's throats to
No.
not even doing it where we have to have it. So yeah, that's a big question for Mr. Olson.
And then they put asphalt
And you can blame me.
sidewalk out on, out by Menards, all the way up around to the post office.
Mhm.
It stops right there at the Sinclair station and turned to asphalt. And a lot of people ask, why are they doing that? And I presume it's just a cost thing as a temporary, because that's not developed land. So they're putting in for the sidewalk, but knowing they'll have to come out one day when they.
I think it's gonna be
develop that
part of a
land.
bike trail. There is what it
Bike
looks
trail
like to
there?
me.
That'd be cool.
I don't know.
I think it will be, because it's.
That's not
it's
Newton's
extra.
property right
I
now,
don't
so
live
I
there, I
don't care.
That's okay.
But anyway,
I
good
will-
question to ask.
Yeah, because that, and they didn't even do sidewalk cutouts for the driveways they put in.
Right, I'm putting that in there. I'll
Good
ask him.
question.
Thank you.
Yep. So even if you're not here next month, I promise it'll get asked.
We're on it.
All right. Okay, park update, George Heron, that's me.
You got a list. So I put the list of the meeting.
Pavilion roof, we haven't heard anything back. They're supposed to have gotten a bid, but they haven't, given me privilege to what the numbers were and the time frame on it, but that has to go be fixed because the roof is sagging now in the middle and it's gotta be replaced. And it's gotta be cheaper to put a roof on that than it is to replace the whole thing. So, I've got a message into our parks man and I'm waiting for him to hear back on it. They expanded the parking lot, as we all saw, made room for more people, and now I'm under the understanding that they have bids out for resurfacing it, and they're waiting to hear back on what the bids are.
Do you know how many spots that added? Was it like 8 spots?
Oh, I think there's 10 spots, 10, potentially 10 to 12 spots that are gonna be, by the time they get done. So, which always help. So we'll have a couple of handicap instead of just one. So the parking lot is supposed to be done this fall. I talked to a Stephanie Schaefer from the Community Service Coordinator. Do you know Stephanie? Yes, Chief does. For several years, I've been talking about doing a mural on the wall of the pavilion, and I talked to Betsy about it. She said, this is who I need to talk to. So I went down one day and sat down and spent about 10 minutes with her. And I told her we'd like to do a mural. And we want something that speaks of what the park is, an all-inclusive place for people to gather for fun and fellowship. And she agreed that that would be a great thing. And she started talking about people from other places coming in to do the mural and have done this and done that. And I told her we really would lean toward having a local artist do the mural here. But we don't have tons of money, and we're not saying that the local artist isn't worth as much as the others, but if we can cut back on the travel. But I'd like to support our local artists if they haven't. She said we have several that are very good that are in the area that, and she said, I don't know exactly what it would be, probably $3,000-4,000 for them to come in and put the mural in, which I find to be very reasonable.
Oh, yeah.
Which
She's-
wall would that be?
The one
Underneath?
inside,
Mhm.
the one on the inside. She said now they have, the paints that they use for the graffiti on it are, fade resistance because of the time they spend out in the sun and the cold. So that is graffiti as best that they can. And I pointed out that it's about an hour that shelter wall is exposed to the sun first thing in the morning. After 9 o'clock, it's in the shade the rest of the day, and she thought that was a great opportunity to make it last that much longer. But she was going to see about maybe possibly getting some grants that are out there to pay for the materials, so all we would have to pay for the artist. And so that all is turning a little bit, and you start in that direction. We'll need to come up with some ideas or ask the artists to come up with something that we can look at and approve, and then the Parks Department will have to approve it. And before we can go ahead and do it. So I really think this is a good time in our cities, in our neighborhood, to put something on that wall that has a little meaning to it. Something that's not a new toy our new thing out in the playground. We've got a really great ground right now. And down the road, we may add something else, but right now, I think we're in good shape with it. Don't want to throw something in there, just throw something in.
And we have just such great usage here and such broad usage. I mean, the nationalities we have for everything.
And we want to make them feel good. You weren't out there for National Night Out, and we had a great turnout for that, which you talk about, but we had a lady from, I want to say Nicaragua, who lives over in apartments over here, and her grandson was here for the visiting, and they came to the event, and she said, my grandson, he don't understand this. And I'm thinking, what's not to understand? I thought that would be a program, we have all the food, come enjoy, be friend. Today, and she said, can understand why you don't have to pay for this food. And I said, did you explain to him? She says, yeah, I explained that these people do this and they want you to eat, enjoy, and make friends and feel like part of the neighborhood. And he says, but who pays? How does that food come? Who pays for it? And she says, they do.
It's not even a politician.
Yeah, it's what we do. And he said, I never would see that. I don't understand that. And she said, down there, that doesn't happen. And I mean, she said, he was just flabbergasted that he could come, pick what he wanted, eat it, go get more if he wanted, and he didn't have to do something or pay for something for that. And he was just in awe of the whole thing, which for me, it says, wow, to what he came from to get here, because we assume this is going to happen.
It's a lesson for us.
That's what it was for me.
Yep.
And then she actually had talked to the mayor on a couple occasions, and they hooked up and were talking with, and she introduced him to him and told him who he was, and his eyes were that big, like, this official is out here, but, you know, we never see our mayor, we don't see these people. So it was a great, like you said, we have such a multitude of diversity come to our park throughout the year that if you go and talk and listen to them, they can teach you a lot. We can. Anyway, that's where the mural comes in. We want to project that all people are welcome and to do that. It's not a big space, but I think we can do it in a simple way and make it look good.
And can we hold off on any sort of like vote for that until we have like an actual?
Yeah, we can't do anything
Until
until we
next
actually get the stuff put together, but just so you know that we're starting to move the ball on that opportunity as it progresses, we'll report. And we need to make decisions, we'll make them at that time.
About tables, you had talked about new tables.
The city, we were going to buy new tables for underneath there, but they said that they have another group that is going to purchase ADA compliant tables for underneath there. And therefore they would take the money we were donating for the tables and use that as part of the payment for the roof. So we'll get the new tables and we'll get the new roof also.
Nice.
So our money's going a little farther on that project. Plus they're getting new ADA compliant tables when they do the concrete work between the splash pad and the pavilion. That stretch of concrete is gonna be big enough to put tables on it, and our canvas overhang covering will be on that too. So it's gonna be exciting to see when this thing all comes together, what we're gonna have on that. But other than that, our park, as you all can see, has been very busy. One thing I do have to compliment the people on this year, and surprised me when I first heard it, and I've seen it many times and over now, is people are starting to get upset about the way the park's being left by the people before them. And they want to come and have a party and a gathering they don't want to miss. And they're coming in there cleaning up, and after they get done, they're cleaning up, and there's very little garbage left there on any occasion. And even last night, they had a big volleyball game, which they do every Sunday night over here on this side of this fountain. The pavilion was full, the playground was full of people, even as warm as it was last night. Yeah, today when I was over there, it was really very, very good shape. So
There's a group that has been coming every night for like 2 weeks. I think Pacific Islanders playing ball, and they clean up Well, that trash can is right there, thankfully,
Yeah,
but it's nice.
thank
Take
you
pride
guys.
in the,
Yeah, they do.
Use one trash can enough?
well,
We
there's
got
one,
three.
Is there?
there's one, like it's right outside our house, so it's one I
Okay.
see.
Yeah, we have a half barrel over by their house, and then we have the three, one by the ball field, and the two
Okay.
over by the pavilion.
And I must say, the city guy comes to take the trash and he goes up the street and picks up. So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, whatever is missed or fell out of the car or something.
I always say, thank you, and he's like, it's my job, but still,
He still appreciates what
Yes.
you mentioned.
but it's good.
So I'm seeing a plus and everything that's going on, because I think the plus comes with the respect they're getting for the
Yeah.
park because of what we're doing to make the park the destination we want it to be. So anyhow, the next on it is Nicole.
Yeah, just a quick recap of National Night Out from Tuesday, August 1st. We hosted our event from 5:30 to 7, which this is the same time frame we've used the last two events. And it seems to work pretty well because it's only an hour and a half of our time to be committed there, but usually neighbors come early and stay late, so it kind of works out. I counted 99 people. George said he counted 120-ish. So we're gonna go with 120 because I'm probably not the best counter because I was yapping for most of the time.
George
Um,
never does.
No, never.
That's why I sit in the corner and count me.
We did have a lot of neighbors that commented that they were happy we were doing it again because they had come in past years. And then we also had quite a bit of neighbors that had never attended before. So that was pretty awesome. Hillside actually brought their huge grill again, did all the burgers and hot dogs for us. And they actually brought 4 or 5 volunteers for the first part, and then 4 or 5 volunteers for the latter part that actually served all the side dishes and like interacted with everyone, which I thought was awesome because there's no way with just our tiny volunteer group that we could have done that. So that meant a lot to us. And honestly, neighbors were not shy about bringing side dishes. There was way more than enough food for everyone. And Hy-Vee actually came in really well again, contributing to that. I did just send them both Hillside and Hy-Vee thank you notes over the weekend. So they should be arriving in mailboxes if they didn't arrive today, tomorrow. So yeah, it was just really awesome. We had our city mayor, city council member, Olson,
Actually was there.
yep, Ashley came.
With her little dog.
Yes, her new little pup.
Yeah, he was a big hit too.
Yes.
Mr.
Yeah.
Palmeran was also there.
Yep, Jeff Pomerantz, Hashim came.
You guys were here.
Yeah, the Parks
Well, obviously
Commissioner
you guys
came,
were there.
and the fire department is always there for us.
You're way good, goody.
Lieutenant Welsh was there.
He was there.
Yeah, he came. And then,
Chief Counselor was there.
yep, Megan from
Matt, did you
Fire
show up?
came.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he brought his kiddos. Yeah,
Yeah, my kiddos.
You
we
bet.
discussed monster trucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the freebies, that's always good.
We really feel blessed to have the city support us the way that they do. It is a good feeling to see them come out to our event and talk to the people and intermingle with these people and let them see that you guys are available. So I think that means a lot too.
The gruff was there.
Yeah, my girl showed up again.
The weather was perfect, and then, when I got home, we had 7 new Facebook followers, so that made my heart happy. What was the other thing I was gonna say about National Night Out?
Well, there was
I
a,
don't remember.
there was a, I don't know if it's still on Williams.
No, Nathan.
No, I got that. There
You
was,
got that?
yeah, totally spaced. I never drive that route. My husband does
Well, I
every day.
did all the time and as I'm going, oh, I should have.
It's okay, it's okay. A neighbor messaged me and I was like, Jake, I thought you picked that up. He goes, no, I got the Hy-Vee one. I was like, dang it. I was like, I'm so sorry. She was great. It's okay. It was a neighborhood potluck on August 1st for like 2 weeks, but it's fine. So,
Yeah.
and I was so disappointed. So we ordered these new signs so they can be used every year. So I don't have to print or make new signs every year. And they were supposed to come the Friday before. I paid the extra shipping. And they were delayed in transit. So guess what day they arrived? The day of the event. So luckily I just flipped over the signs from last year. It was fine. But I was like, of course. So now we have signs for next year, so we don't have to take that money out of next year's budget. They are safely in my garage.
Well, what I'm seeing here is something that happened in a lot of places, a lot of people's things is that this year we have had a great increase in all our events and participation from the people that we want to serve. And we've had more at our safety fair this year. I talked to our Hy-Vee rep and afterwards and told her how many more we had. And she says, well, next year, we're just gonna have to bump your budget, your hot dogs and stuff up another 25%. So if you're gonna get that many more people, we're just have to get you more stuff for them. So she's already on board for if we're increasing, she said we will too. So very happy to hear that. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have.
You sure?
Yep.
Well,
Well, I
it
have
was a
other
great
stuff
night.
that came up, but that can save till after your event thing.
Oh, my event thing. Well, I'm just thinking of maybe having one more event before the end of the year. And of course, Halloween trick or trunking has always been a big thing. Does church here
I
do
don't know
that
what they're doing.
anymore or not?
I don't know what their plans are. I'll have to
Well,
ask.
could you check with them and see, and then we'll check with Hillside. And now the church right here across from Cleveland School, right on First Avenue, corner 22nd, I think it is. They had a representative come up to talk to us about being a participant in some of our activities. So I was gonna touch base with them and see
Well,
what
I
they
think
do or
they're
not.
a Presbyterian church, I think it is.
I cannot think of the name of
Yeah.
it, I'm sorry.
I think it's Presbyterian.
But anyway,
Because she came here.
they are,
one night.
they came to our national night out and was talking to me about doing, participating in some activities too. And that was a good feeling. But to see with get our new parking lot all put in, it'd be nice to have trunk and treating.
If we're gonna host it, just invite all the churches to
Right.
represent, and
Right.
obviously some other agencies that we already partner with too. I mean, it's not like it's a difficult event, but I feel like if we're going to do a trunk or treat, we need to have something more than just the trunk or treat.
Mhm.
So whether that's, bringing in a dunk tank or doing a photo booth or something that's more than just the trunk or treat. Because otherwise it's kind of sad when they come, do the trunk or treat and then they leave.
Mhm.
Like, that's not really what we want to get out of it. We want to create more of like camaraderie. So, if anybody has ideas, if we want to like create like a budget and say, this is how much we're willing to spend, and then kind of scale backwards, how much can we get with that money? I don't know what way you guys want to approach it.
We
but-
used to do a chili supper afterwards, but I don't know. And we got lots of people come for it. I don't know what you want to do with the budget for it. I mean, they had a
Well, I thought about
contest,
maybe
but
doing hot dogs and something for them to eat afterwards too.
hot dogs
and
would
or
work too.
whatever.
I'm just saying, yeah,
Just a
food.
thought, I'm looking for ideas.
Well, at our church, we do trunk or treat. We go to church in Marion and we have games and then like coloring, but not everything would work here. But we also have hot chocolate, s'mores, something besides just going around to
The
Yeah.
trunk or
the
treat,
cars.
Yeah.
something they could do
Yeah.
there.
I mean,
So we're
hot
all on
dogs
that
work,
page.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
we'll
fine.
just have to work in the next 30 days to come up with some ideas and talk to some people what they do, and then we'll get together at the next meeting in September and haggle over how we're gonna do it.
Have chili dogs, how's that?
Chili dogs. Oh, yeah. Mom and young kids love us the next day we do chili dogs.
Like I said, the year we did the chili, I mean, it was full down here. I mean, we had to quit doing it because we figured we had too many people down here. That was before we had it sprinkled, so.
But anyway, good recovery. Anyway, so if you have some ideas, please put it on our email or contact one of us to see how we can make it happen. I'm not against doing anything, it's that we just need to get it early enough so we can make it happen.
And it doesn't have to be a trunk or treat. We could do some other form of like Halloweeny fall kind of event anyway, like a fall festival. I mean, anything we want. I personally feel like because it is such a short time to try something new, it needs to probably be a similar scale to like National Night Out rather than like the safety fair.
Right.
So,
No, we don't want to go that big with it, but
yeah.
if we get people to come in and do the trunk or treat, we can add games along, How many prizes we got from our,
Well, they're all Easter now because
well,
the church is paying for what we took out of the pile, but hey, Oriental trading is cheap, so. and they
Well,
deliver.
I was overlooking at how many kids would come to? We get 100 kids,
I bet we would.
you think?
Well, trunk or treats are very popular now.
We had
so-
350 at ours.
Yeah,
It's a lot of
it
people.
becomes chaotic if you advertise it almost too much, so.
So what date are you thinking, or do you have one in mind yet?
Oh, I just got the idea yesterday.
A Saturday morning
Saturday
or
before.
Saturday
I don't know
evening
what
in
the. yeah,
October.
Yeah, when is Halloween?
Hold
It's
on.
Tuesday, isn't it?
Our church is doing it on that Sunday. I think that's the 29th, maybe?
Sunday, October 29th.
Yeah.
When is?
Still do trick or treating, you know, as well as trunk or treat. Halloween is Tuesday,
31st.
31st.
It wasn't a Tuesday. I was kidding.
And if we genuinely want to have like a
That's on
Halloween
Thursday.
festival on Halloween, I'm sure people would still attend because people don't always want to hand out candy on Halloween.
Mhm.
But I don't know with it being, my whole thing is like, I'm not a parent, so I don't really have a formal opinion, but I know like if I was a parent, I wouldn't necessarily want to hurry home, have to dress my kids up, take them somewhere on a weeknight if they're in school.
Mhm.
So I'm just hesitant in my mind.
Well,
to do
that's
it on
why
a
I think
weeknight.
a lot of people, we don't have near the people we used to have in our neighborhood 10 years ago, but we have a lot more trunk or treats going on around the area that the kids are going to, and the parents are saying, you don't need to go out, you already did it. So we could do it on a Saturday afternoon before
Mhm.
you're on the other side of town, so we shouldn't draw from your crowd. We could.
I think they go from one to another whenever
Yeah,
they.
my studio has
They
7
could-
kids and
we
they
could
just
get-
go from
Yeah,
trunk or
yeah.
treat to trunk
Kinda
or
like
treat.
the egg roll.
We could bring full-size candy bars and that would clean out.
And we could have a costume contest. I
Yeah,
mean,
we could do that too, or a little
With a
little
prize.
something that each kid gets for having a good costume. But,
Anyway, come up with ideas and we can come up with a formal plan at the
Even if we do
September meeting.
it by the next meeting, we still have time.
oh, yeah,
Oriental trading delivers about 2 days.
we'll put the word
Do
out
we
with-
want to shoot for like that Saturday, the 28th?
Yes.
Yeah.
The afternoon of Saturday, the 28th.
Yeah, I think so.
3 to 5.
Oh my gosh, it gets dark pretty soon. I mean, well,
That makes it fun.
Yeah, if we want to say Saturday, the 28th from 3 to 5.
That comes
yeah,
out
because
right
it'll be the
then.
next Sunday they change daylight, but it's still getting pretty dark even. 28.
Okay, any other business? Hey, hand is up.
I have
Please.
to.
Same thing I bring up every time I come to one of these meetings. I'm a little concerned about the free dogs running at the park. We don't have a sign up that says dogs must be on leash. People come, park, let them run, and they're all over the playground.
No one down by the entryway?
I don't think so.
Because I've talked to Tyler about this. Every time you bring it to my attention, he says, well, we do have a sign.
But it's not enforced.
It's not.
But there are big
Well, that's what we
dogs.
call, I
Mhm.
mean,
But by the time the police get there, the people have them on the leash.
or they
There
see
are-
the animal control coming up and they quick grab them.
But there are big dogs,
Yes.
big on the playground with little children. And I can see it, and it really bothers me.
I
So,
mean, the city's doing a good job of making more dog parks.
You know
Does that
what?
make
I
the
did-
park a nuisance?
I did video a guy, training pit bulls to attack policemen. And he called the cops on me, and the cop came and told me I shouldn't be doing that. So I'm not gonna video anymore. Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
So I bring it up every,
But when you're out on a public property like that, you should not expect to have privacy of any sort. You're out in a public area, what people see and what they do is their right. If you don't want them to see you do it, don't go out on public property.
but it's not a dog park.
I know, and you're right. I feel the policeman was in error to tell
He
you
was an error. I
not
looked
to.
it up.
and not to do that.
Yeah.
Sounded to me
Whether
like he
he
was
was
just trying to
fearful
smooth
that
over
they
something.
would come after you maybe, but yeah.
But I am concerned that someone
It's
is gonna get
hurt.
bit, some
Yep.
child.
And unfortunately, we had Denise get it, we had Carlita get it.
Carlita did too.
Yep.
Three running dogs. They both were bit and injured very badly
Yeah,
because of it. And then the people, Denise's, the people that owned the dog were upset when I told them they needed to put him down.
Yeah, right.
oh,
Right.
yeah.
I said, why?
Mhm.
And she's got her leg all tore up, bandaged up, she's on a walking stick, and she looks at him and says, really? Why?
Well, dogs are more important than people, so.
Yeah, to some people they are.
But anyway, I'll probably bring it up again next month.
That's all right.
I
Our
mean,
lieutenant
honestly, the
will
best
be
thing
here,
is
please come back and ask him
Just be
why,
vigilant.
and what they.
just please be vigilant. Like the second you see it, just call. It's, if people aren't,
But when you
They can't.
call, the girl says, well, is he attacking you? Well, no, he's not attacking me. Well, is he bothering you? Well, no, he's at the park free. I mean,
they do have to ask those questions, honestly, because they
Yeah.
need to know what they're coming into.
yeah,
But it's really important that we just stay vigilant on those things, because if there are rules about this for a reason, it's not like Sierra PD and fire department come up with these rules for just for fun. Like, there's obviously, it's a safety thing.
do we need more signs up is my question.
Okay.
We can
Good
ask,
answer.
we can definitely
Good
ask for more signs.
We'll ask.
I'm just confident, like,
I'll
personally,
hear from Tyler probably the next day, because I left him a text, and I will say, we have this problem continuing,
yeah,
and.
It's not that I don't like dogs, because we had a dog,
yeah, no,
but it's
No.
just,
yeah.
It's
worry about
not a
the
case
kids.
of
And
loving or not
personally-
loving a dog, it's a case of safety of people.
Yeah.
I
in
don't-
the park.
I don't have kids that play on the playground, right? I have dogs, but I don't take them to public places. That's just not what we do. I have friends that take their dogs and let them off leash at parks. I lecture them constantly. That is so stupid. You don't know how that dog, even if it's a perfect dog, is going to react.
Right.
So people know, they just choose not to adhere to the rules and listen.
And then
So
they're
we can talk to
surprised
them
when they
in the
get
face.
sued and they gotta get rid of the
Yeah,
dog and all
exactly.
that after they text.
But unless you call and unless you stay vigilant, I mean, you can't fix people that just don't want to
But
follow the
sometimes
rules.
they'll-
Signs or not,
They'll
that's the
attack
crap.
another
So let's
dog
put up
as well
more
as
signs.
another person.
Let's try it. It
Yeah,
can't
so
hurt.
honestly,
They got them all on a stack on a shelf over there, we just give
What?
them some more.
Do they
How many
really?
you want?
Like 20?
20?
Okay, maybe not 20,
Are
Rose.
you running for election, dog catcher, or what is this? Oh, I love you.
Okay, so speaking of dogs, transitioning, well, did you want to add anything else?
No.
Okay, sorry, transitioning on that topic. So originally Johnson Avenue Hy-Vee had said they were hosting their dog day summer
Yeah.
event with the police canine unit. We're gonna host it earlier this month, or whatever date you said.
Yeah, 20.
They're doing it now on the 26th, and it's
Right.
from 11 to 3 at the Johnson Avenue Hy-Vee. They're going to have the CRPD K9 unit, a dunk tank, face painting, cotton candy, games, and a bouncy house, I think is what was on there. All their information is on their Facebook page, and I will link it to our meeting minutes, and I've already shared it on our Facebook page, but it'll obviously be on the website. They had told George that we were invited to host an informational table. Personally, I won't be able to attend, I'll be out of town, but if that's something you want to do, speak
I'll
down
go
or hold your
take
peace.
those and- I'll go and set up a table and talk to people about neighbors. I'll wear my shirt.
Yeah, wear a shirt, bring a sign, bring some handouts, that's it. So I have all of that if you'd like to pick it up, but I just unfortunately won't be able to
I got a
attend.
packet full of them from the National Night Out.
Do you have that stack that I left behind?
In the little holder.
Yeah, you're great. I literally opened my bag, I'm like, where is it? I bet George has it.
It's at my house. I'll be there
Okay.
for that particular day. So, anyway.
Other thing was, we get regular emails from, the Lynn County Bridge Opportunities, the senior programming. So, I don't know how they publish that information, honestly. I just get their emails because I signed up the Canna account for it, and they just send like a list and a calendar. So again, I don't know if it's like at the nursing homes or if it's in assisted living, like apartments that they share the information. But I'm trying to figure out the best way to get that onto our website and into our emails and social media. So for now, I'm just gonna keep putting a link to it. But if you have anyone in your life that's interested in doing like basically like day trips or having lunch meetings or anything, there's a slew of things that they have going on all the time, pretty much every day of the month of August, September, October, I think are all the calendars that are out. So feel free to share that with anyone you know that might be interested in that.
Would they come and talk to us?
I can ask, yeah,
So
absolutely.
we know what we're putting on our social media?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you ask them?
I don't know if it's even, it's just a group of volunteers or who it is, but it's worth asking. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Worst thing say is no.
And we got, how much time do we have? I'm late. One last thing. I'm going to talk to whoever does Playtime Poppies
Oh,
in the theater, Abbott Theater,
This
community
is all
theater
for you.
group. I would like to try someplace in the next year, whether in the spring or summer or something, to do a theater in the park over here, Playtime Poppies kind of thing for kids to come over on a Saturday afternoon or something and have them do performances and have popcorn and the usual stuff and give them a chance to meet with the actors and intermingle and stuff with that. How do we feel about it? So you think that's a
I
good,
like the copy.
okay?
Yeah,
Maybe you
Send
could,
this on for you.
it's been on so long, even I went to play Poppy way back
You know,
when, back in
Go
the
to
dark
Okoboji
ages.
In the summer, and there's, Treasure Village had what you're talking about, where you could meet the actors afterwards, and that's fun. That'd be cool.
well, that's another one of my back into my mind things that I'm
Yeah.
bringing
Well, it would
forward.
introduce kids to theater too,
Mhm.
live theater that
I
may
thought
not
about the
ever
high
go to
schools
live
when they
theater.
have the first, second year kids or even the third year, students who are in the theater to come up and practice with a small group of kids to put on skits and one act plays, whatever, and have 3 or 4 different ones that they can perform for the kids on a Saturday, and donations would go to them, and, you know, we're just supplying a place and.
I think the trouble
popcorn
we're gonna
stuff.
run into is that if it's a school organized event and it's in the public, there's
Yeah.
different liability. But if we reached out to like Theater Cedar Rapids or something, that might be an option.
Yeah.
I think Playtime Poppy itself, like they're its own organization and they're just affiliated with the high schools, that would be possible. But if we're asking students to come and do like a class, I don't think that would be allowed by the
Yeah.
school
No,
district.
I'm not talking about a class where they would come out and they would actually perform themselves for the kids.
Yeah,
And then-
okay.
then
You
they
don't want
would
them to be taught.
No,
Okay.
they're not teaching
I
them about it,
misunderstood.
but they would be able to, the kids would be able to experience, first, second year kids into it, to experience the exposure as they put on the performance for these young kids and parents in the neighborhood.
Our son who's now in Sacramento, just his church down in Iowa City did that, but they did a theater camp. Actually is what they hosted, where they did it for a week and then they put on Seussical musical at the end of that.
Well,
But anyway, I just want to expose them to the arts.
Yeah.
I think
however
it's
I do
something to pursue.
So I just need to reach out now and get the plant seed and we'll see how it grows. But just my last thought. Any other business before we adjourn? Thank you guys for staying 10 minutes later. And look back at it. Anyway.
7.
All right, 8:05.